Hey everybody, how you doing? It's me again, True Teacher, coming at you with another video. So, last week I went to the gym, and after I finished working out, I was walking in the mall, and there's this little store there that I'd passed many times before, but I never really paid attention to it. And I saw that it looked like a botanica. For those of you who don't know, a botanica is a store that sells like religious paraphernalia. You find it in a lot of Latino neighborhoods, mostly associated with African traditional practices. But this wasn't a botanica. It was a store owned by Coptic Christians who are the Christians of Egypt. So, I was interested because, a lot of you know that I spent a lot of time in Egypt. So I'm looking around now. Tell me why I come in there and homeboy is behind the cash register, right? It's behind the counter. And I'm, walking down the aisle and I'm looking at the different things that they have because they had other things besides religious paraphernalia. I'm just seeing, like, what all they got. I turn around and homeboy is standing there watching me. And I'm like, okay. You know, didn't think much of it. So I walked, to the next aisle and I look up. I'm like, is this dude following me? I'm like, nah. you know. So I said, all right, you know what? Let me test this out. I was on like the far right of the store, right? I went to the last aisle all the way over on the left side. And sure enough, so I'm like, this is not happening to me. I go to every aisle, every combination I can think of. And every time I move, this guy is there with me like my shadow. Now mind you, I'm not the only person in the store. And I want you to keep that in mind for later, right? I'm not the only one in the store. I'm not the only person in the store who's not Egyptian. But I guess you could say I was the most melanated person in the store. Well, with the exception of him because we were like actually the same skin tone. So, I say to him in Arabic, is there a problem? And he's like, oh, no, 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 no problem, no problem. I'm like, why are you following me? Oh, no, I'm not following you. I'm like, dude, yes, you are. You're following me. Why are you following me? Is there a problem? No, no, no problem. We're the same, no problem, we're the same. I stayed longer in that store than what I really wanted to because I was like, is this in my mind or is this really happening? And I was like, you know what? No, this is not in my mind, man. This is really happening. And I was really upset about that. I left the store and, I said, you know what? I'm going to go back the next day. After I go to the gym, I'm going to go back and this time I'm going to have a conversation because my Arabic is not that strong and his English was not that strong either. So I was like, let me find somebody who really speaks English and I'm going to have, a conversation with this guy as to why his behavior isn't cool. So I go back the next day and long story short, he's not there, but another guy is there. Um, Different person. Never saw this guy before. But sure enough, the same thing. It's like I look up and So I do the same thing. I go all the way over on the left side. I look up. I'm like, okay, you know what? I know what this is like. I'm gonna nip this shit in the bud. I said to him, do you speak English? Yes. And I'm like trying to explain to him what he's doing and why that's not okay. He starts getting so defensive and irate. There was a priest there, a Coptic priest, and I think he was with his wife or something. And, so since this guy was being a complete dick, I turned to the priest and said, okay, listen, I'm trying to explain to him. I explained the situation to him, and I'm trying to explain to him why this is not, a good thing to do. So, the priest is telling him, relax, relax. Why are you overreacting like this? Why are you getting so mad? Why are you getting so upset? Blah, blah, blah. Because he's going off and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and making a whole big scene. And I'm explaining to the priest, very calm, very cool, very collective, what's going on. And said, look, this is not in my head. I know what I'm seeing. I know what's going on. Oh, well, I'm helping. It's my job to help people because, if you're not Egyptian, I see you're not Egyptian, so, you might have questions about things. And I'm like, yesterday, I wasn't the only non-Egyptian there. And I'm not the only non-Egyptian there now. I'm like, look at that Indian couple. They're not Egyptian. Why isn't somebody like watching them so they can help them? He ends up apologizing to me. And this is what he tells me. Oh, well, you have to understand, I'm not the owner. I'm just a worker here. And I have to follow the rules of the owner. And the owner tells us that when customers come in, we have to watch them. And I'm not stupid. I know what's going on. Because actions speak louder than words. The owner tells him, when you see black people, you have to follow them. That's what the real deal is. The fucked up thing about this is that in Egypt, Coptic people are a minority and very often a persecuted minority. Like I said, I've been going to Egypt a lot, for a very long time. I'm familiar. Where I stay in Cairo is, in fact, a Coptic neighborhood where it's a lot of Coptic Christians in that neighborhood. And I mentioned that to the priest, and he said, "Oh yeah, I know exactly where that." When I'm in Cairo. I stay in El Ezbekeya, in Sharia Gamhureya, right across from Mustafa Sidnawi, Sidnawi Hospital. He said, "Yeah, I know that community very well." I said, "So you know that I know what I'm talking about when I say this. That in Egypt, Coptic people are not treated with respect. You know that I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it with my own eyes. I know what I'm talking about. And I think it's really a disgrace that as a person who's coming from a community who knows what it's like to be unfairly treated and singled out and oppressed, to come to a new country and to do the same thing, to treat another group of people the same way that they were being unfairly treated back in their own country. And I gotta tell you, it left a really bad taste in my mouth, and I will never spend my money in that establishment. Which is a shame because they did have some objects in there that were, really nice, and I was gonna come back and spend my money there, but absolutely not. You see the thing, and there's some people that would say, "Oh, why are you getting upset about this?" I get upset because I'm a person who has a moral character, and I strive to improve myself and my character. And I have a very strong sense of justice and morality. And when I see immoral, unjust behavior happening in front of me, I have to call it out. Now, if that ain't you, and you're the kind of person, oh, yeah, yeah, I mean, look, it's not like I'm walking around and I'm bugging out everywhere I go. Like, no, I choose my battles. There's some things where, you know, you definitely have to open up and say something. And there's other times when, you know what, I'm going to let this slide. And a lot of times, I would say most of the time, I let things slide depending on the severity. If it's really egregious, then no, I'm going to say something. But ordinarily, I turn a blind eye to most things. But at the end of the day, I do believe that our purpose in this world is to make ourselves better people and to help to make the world a better place as well. And one of the ways that I do that is by having discussions. When I see something that's wrong, I will speak to the person about what they're doing, what they said, etc., etc. And it grieves me. It really, really does grieve me when I see people who know what it's like to be oppressed, who know what it's like to be victimized, turn around and become oppressors and victimizers themselves. And I don't direct this opinion at any one particular ethnic group at all, because I know that as human beings, we have a dualistic nature. Each and every one of us is capable of doing great things. We're all capable of goodness. We're all capable of intelligence. But we're also, each and every one of us, capable of doing evil, being unjust, being unfair, being tyrannical, being oppressors. Each and every one of this. And by saying that, in no way do I justify when people are being taken advantage of. Like, oh well, they do it too. No, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. So what do I choose to do? I mean, like I said, personally me, I can choose not to patronize that store again. It's not the kind of place where it gets a lot of foot traffic outside of the community. It's not like an essential business, right? I think most people in the world could live a very happy life without having any Coptic Christian tchotchkes around their house. I'm just saying, that's just my humble opinion. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe you might need, like, a Coptic Christian priest, like head turban. Maybe you do. I don't know. Personally, me, I think I will live the rest of my life quite happily without any headdress or robes or anything of that nature. But if it had been like a community kind of business and they were pulling that shit, best believe I would have been boycotting that shit and starting a movement. Because to me, if you're a person who knows what it's like to experience that, you are held to a higher standard because you should know better. You should know better. So there's no excuse for coming and treating another group of people like crap just because you can. Or just because you've sat there in your country, wherever the hell you were before you came here, watching TV, watching the internet, and seeing all the negative propaganda against a certain group of people. Especially for these people, because they know what it's like to be subjected to negative propaganda in the media. They know what it's like to be slandered in movies and films, television shows, to be made the butt of all jokes. They know what it's like. The same thing that people of African descent in diaspora have to deal with here. They know what it's like to be on the receiving end of that shit back there. So what gives you the right to come here and now shit on another group of people? And I wish I could say that it's only this community that I've seen that kind of behavior from, but it's not. When I was in college, I used to hang out with the Palestinians a lot because I recognized that the way they were being treated was unfair by the Israeli government. What they were being subjected to, and what they still are being subjected to, is no different than what was happening in South Africa under apartheid. It's no different than what was happening to African Americans here in the United States during segregation. It is no different. And in some cases, it's even worse. So I would be there with my buddies, like at their rallies, at their, teach-ins or whatever, protests. I'd be right there, with them. Tell me why. After the protest, after the rally, I go, I'm hanging with my friends. I go with them to their uncle's little deli or whatever. And, they take one look at me and then ask their nephew or niece, does the nigger speak Arabic? Yet still, you are the same people that just a few seconds ago, were telling me about how racist the Israeli government is and how oppressed you are. And not even 10 minutes go by and you talking some shit because you don't think that I speak Arabic or enough Arabic to know what the fuck you was talking about. And just to continue the circle of the clusterfuck, I've been to Israel and seen the way Israelis treat Palestinians in the streets. I've seen it with my own two eyes, so nobody can tell me any bullshit. And those same Israelis are the descendants and the survivors of people who were being rounded up, placed in concentration camps, murdered in gas chambers, and then thrown into crematoriums. But yet and still, here you are. You came into a country that was already populated by another group of people, and you decided that you, who were living there over there in Europe for 2,000 years, has a right to come back to this country and tell the people that they don't have a right to live on the land that their ancestors never left. And you destroy their villages. And you go in there and you engage in ethnic cleansing, genocide. And you relegate them to refugee camps. But you see how the clusterfuck works? Because everybody seems to think that only their pain matters. My people have suffered. No one has suffered like me. Only we have suffered. Oh, how we suffer. Oh, how we suffer. Oh, how we suffer. Like you're the only one in the world who knows what it's like to be in pain, to have been the victim of injustice, whatever. And so now you are justified to do whatever the fuck you think it takes to ride roughshod over somebody else. And you think it makes it okay because way back when, you're somebody who's it's had a hard time. That ain't the way life works. Like I said before in the beginning, all of us have the same capacity as human beings for goodness or for evil. And while everybody's sitting here waiting for some Superman to come, waiting for Jesus to come back and set everything straight, make it all right, baby, let me tell you something. Sorry to fucking break the news to you, but there is no goddamn Superman. There is no Superman. The Messiah is not coming back. It's not gonna happen. It's not happening. If you want the world to be a better place, you need to get up off your fucking ass and do some work and make this bitch a better place. You have to do the work. You can light as many goddamn candles as you want. You can sing as many hymns as you want. That shit ain't gonna happen. You've been given free choice and life for a reason. If you want it to happen, you have to do it. You have to do it. If you want this world to be paradise on earth, you have to do it. It's up to us to make this world a better place if we want it to be that way. And in order for this world to be a better place, it means we need to be honest and take a good look in the mirror and deal with our bullshit. Because just as much as we may suffer from unfair treatment from other people, we have to also recognize that we carry the capacity within ourselves to be the oppressor. And if there are things inside of us that aren't right with our character, we need to work it out. Now, it doesn't mean that you stop speaking out against injustice. Yes, that's a very important part of the process. But don't get the shit twisted now and think that you're some kind of fucking saint sitting up on a pedestal somewhere. No. You got to deal with your own bullshit too. Learn the lesson from history. Within my lifetime, there have been several freedom movements that sprung up in order to fight injustice in this country. They all folded like a deck of cards. Why? Because the problem was from within. The problem was because those people, as righteous as their protests and their mission was, inside of themselves they had weaknesses and deficiencies and shortcomings. And the enemy was able to exploit those weaknesses and bring those movements down. Every last single one of them. So there's an African proverb that says, if you have no enemy within, there can be no enemy without. We need to take a look inside of ourselves and recognize the things that we do. The things that we do to other people that are not right. Even the things that we do to our own selves that are not right. The ideas that we have in our minds that are not right, that undermine us, that self-sabotage us. We have to take responsibility for it all. Even as we're out there fighting against oppression and fighting against all of these other things, yes. Even while we're doing that, don't get the shit twisted now and take the eyes off yourself. You have to be working with your own self and constantly developing your character. The only thing that I regret is that I didn't take advantage of the opportunity that I had with that priest and tell him, because he understood what was going on. And he was apologizing to me. But you see, it wasn't his place to apologize for the wrong behavior of that other individual. Because that person will still go out and perpetrate injustice. The owner of that establishment is still highlighting, the owner of that establishment is still profiling innocent people from a certain demographic in the community unfairly. And it's not like I'm saying that there isn't a dysfunctional element in the African American community. Of course there is. But there's dysfunctional elements in every community. And don't fucking try to come and tell me, because I've been to your country, my nigga. I've been to your country. I've been to Shubra. I've been to Mandar Haramin. I've been to Bab al-Ahmar. All those places where y'all motherfuckers are terrified to go by yourselves. I've been there. So don't fucking come and try to tell me shit. I've been there. I've seen it. Y'all got just as much dysfunction going on over there as African Americans do here. And even when you come here, a lot of people in your community come with their bullshit and their baggage right here in Jersey City. Don't fucking try to tell me, because I've seen it. Right underneath my apartment, there used to be a taxi cab stand. It was Egyptian owned. When I tell you the fuckery and foolishness and the ghetto bullshit that used to go on in that taxi cab stand on a daily basis, the cops was always over here. So don't fucking come and try to tell me no bullshit. I see you. But at the same time, I do not take the dysfunction of a certain community and then apply that to the whole bunch. No, I'm not going to hold an innocent person responsible for the negativity of another individual. Absolutely not. But somehow or another, everybody comes over here and they think that it's perfectly fine to shine a spotlight on the assholes within a certain community and then make believe like that's all there is when there's not. And what I wish that I had said, and I was kicking myself, I should have said to that priest, because like I said, he knew exactly what the fuck I was talking about. Because when I started speaking, he knew, oh, this one, he knows what the fuck he's talking about. He knows. What I should have said to him, as a clergyman, you need to have a talk with your community and remind them where they came from and where they are now, and why this kind of behavior is unacceptable as a human being, and especially as you're claiming to be a Christian. Unacceptable behavior. Totally incompatible with your Christian standards of morality. Totally unacceptable. And I have seen this over and over again from so many different people, so many different communities. And people will say, oh, well, you're not African American, why do you care? First of all, because it's the right fucking thing to do. Second of all, because when I'm walking down the street, it's not like, as big as my fucking forehead is, there's not a Jamaican flag tattooed on it. How the fuck are they gonna know where I'm from? So whether I like it or not, when I go out in the street, a lot of times, unfortunately, I get the same nigger treatment that everybody else gets. I'm not fucking stupid. And I will even go a further step, and I would say that I think Everybody who comes to this country and you're filing for citizenship, it should be mandatory that you know the history of the African Americans and their struggle here and what they did in order to make it possible for people like me to be able to say that I'm a citizen of the United States because I was born here. I have citizenship by right of birth. That's not a universal right around the world. But that's something that we have because of the fight that African Americans made. Any one of us can come from anywhere, and if we're born here, automatically we got citizenship. I have friends who were born in Dubai, born in Kuwait. They do not have citizenship. I have a friend who was born in Dubai. Her passport, she has to carry an Indian passport. Never been to India a fucking day in her life. Doesn't matter. So the fact that you can come over here and your kids can be citizens of this country and take advantage of the rights and privileges that they have now, rights and privileges that were won by these people that you're profiling. The fact that you can come here and it's illegal for anyone to discriminate against you based on your religion, based on your skin tone, your color, your nationality. You can go to any restaurant, you can go to any hospital, any facility that you want to. And you cannot be discriminated against by law. You owe that privilege to these people that you're profiling and looking down your nose at. Every last single one of us. It should be mandatory that we know that history. And furthermore, that we have anti-racism sensitivity training. Because I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. White supremacy is a virus of the mind and it's highly contagious. You don't have to be white to be a white supremacist or to engage in white supremacist behavior and mentality. And for certain ethnic groups who have a history of disrespecting people in the African American community who patronize those businesses, any business that comes into a community and disrespects the members of that community. Now, if you're doing some fuck shit, you on your own. But other than that, if you're disrespecting the people from that community, then the community needs to shut them down. They don't need to be doing business in that area anymore. They need to be shut down. Just like how in Atlanta, there was that gas station where the attendant was going on with some damn nonsense and the community came and said, "You not doing business here." They blocked that shit off and made sure no traffic was going into that gas station. Nothing was coming in and nothing was going out. They shut that motherfucker down. That's the same thing we need to do in our communities, in every community. If somebody has the nerve to come up in there and disrespect us, believe me, you're not gonna fucking die because you can't get bundles. You're not gonna fucking die because you can't get your weave. Shut the motherfuckers down. Shut them down. I'm not saying to target every, person from that community or whatever, but if they disrespect you, people ain't gonna respect you until you make them. If there's no consequences, they're never gonna change their behavior. Shut them down. And let them go someplace else. Well, okay, you had a business here. Well, you know what? You got the acumen to find another location and start all over again. But this time you're going to freaking remember to watch your ass. because people ain't gonna settle for that crap anymore. You have to teach people how you're gonna be treated. I'm telling you, man, this world is a freak. This world is something else. Y'all human beings are messy as fuck. Messy and complicated. But like I said, at the same time, even though all of that may be true, I still remain optimistic because as human beings, we do have that duality. And just as much bullshit and rottenness as there is out there in the world, there's still a lot of beauty out there. And there's still a lot of beautiful people from every walk of life, from every community, from every nationality. So this isn't about sitting down and feeling like a victim and, no, absolutely not. Even though racism exists in our society now, and don't be a fucking ass and try, when have you ever experienced racism? That no, it does fucking exist. But the point is that a lot of you dumbasses don't fucking realize. You don't stick your head up your ass and act like it doesn't exist, like you don't fucking see it. But you do acknowledge the fact that you are stronger than it, and it is not going to stop you from doing what you have to do in life. It may make it a little bit difficult for you at times, a little bit more difficult than it is for somebody else or some other people. But as long as you know that you are unstoppable, then you're one step ahead of the game. And once again, I call attention to the history of the people in this country who were the descendants of enslaved Africans. And I will say this. Look at what they were able to achieve, even despite everything that was being done to them. Look at how many of them still manage to make a contribution, not only to this country, but to the entire world. With many things that we take for granted. This computer, this conversation, this interaction would not be happening if it wasn't, well, that was an African that developed that technology. But a lot of y'all are watching this on your phones. And it was an African-American scientist who came up with a very crucial development that made digital cell phones, receiving this information, possible. Yes, racism is real. It's still with us today. But look at how much they were able to achieve. And y'all don't say, a lot of y'all don't seem to realize that there are thousands of African American communities across this country that are not ghettos. Middle class, upper middle class, and affluent communities in every state in this country, just about. They're there. Now, if you don't know about it, maybe it's because you're a fucking broke-ass motherfucker and you don't know about it because you can't afford to live there. But that's not their fault. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that your ass is too fucking broke to buy a house in that community. But we're living in the digital age of information now. You have no excuse to be a fucking moron. You don't have any excuse to be stupid. Google it. Affluent African American communities in the United States. It's that simple. So I will finish this out and say that, yes, I was extremely disappointed to have to endure that situation. Extremely disappointed in that the ownership of that business especially because of the community that he comes from. Extremely disappointed to see so many people in so many other immigrant communities that have a really fucked up notion in their mind when they should know better. But it doesn't break my spirit. White supremacy is real, but it does not break my spirit. And it's not going to stop me. It's made certain things in my life harder. I've paid a heavy price for it. Yes, I have. But it hasn't stopped me, and it's not going to stop me. And at the same time, I know that it's not everybody in those communities that are guilty of it. But I'm not going to stick my head up my ass and act like it doesn't exist. If somebody is sitting on my chest and fucking strangling me, I'm not going to sit there and think happy thoughts. And just think of something else. Oh, that doesn't matter. No, I'm going to deal with it. And some of y'all out there, you know who you are. When I start telling certain things, your feelings get hurt. Well, sorry, fuck your feelings. How about that? I'm going to speak my truth. And when I see bullshit and injustice, I'm going to speak truth. I'm going to speak the truth to it. And regardless of whatever negativity I encounter in my life, it doesn't break me down, because as far as I'm concerned, obstacles are there to make me stronger. Every obstacle that I overcome in my life makes me a stronger person. And every battle that I fight makes the world a better place for somebody else. Every time that I speak words of truth, inspires and uplifts somebody else to not give up and not to give in, and to continue fighting their battle and working on themselves. So I'm going to go to the gym now, and I'm going to have myself a great workout, and I'm going to walk by that store. And I may or may not fuck with them. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I'll see what time I finish my workout. Maybe I'll just go in there and fuck with them for shits and giggles. Maybe I'll go back in there to have a conversation with that first dude from the first day that was fucking with me. Maybe. I don't know. But with that said, everybody, listen, I want you all. Spring is finally here. Spring has sprung. It's a beautiful day out today. I want you to have, wherever you are, I want you to have a good day. I want you to have a good week. I want you to have a good life. Love and light, peace, prosperity, and perfect health to all of you until I see you the next time. Bye-bye.